order. This is the October 15th, 2013 Medford Township Council meeting. I'll begin with the open public meeting statement. Notice of this meeting has been provided in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act by 1, posting a copy of the agenda on the bulletin board at the municipal building and on the township website. 2, filing a copy of the agenda in the office of the township clerk at the municipal building. 3, forwarding a copy of the agenda to the central record and the Burlington County Times. And 4, forwarding written notice to each person who has requested copies of the regular meeting schedule. All the above posting, filing, and mailing have taken place on the 11th of October 2013. Would you all rise for the flag salute, please? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. I appreciate your bringing children here from the Cherryville 5th grade cars for us this evening. Randy,
Certainly. As council's aware, and now let the rest of the public in on this, earlier this year, at the end of last year's school year, we planted a tree out at Cherryville. And during that ceremony, the chorus treated us to a special song. And I was touched. And I asked Sally Brinkerhoff if she would consider bringing the chorus to a council meeting and sharing with the rest of council that song. Not everybody was able to attend, so that's what we're doing this evening. So without further ado, Sally, thank you very much. Parents, family, friends of the 5th grade chorus, thank you for attending.
This song is called A New Revolution. Hope this is the right song. You ready? Okay.
This is a new revolution. Science can lead the way. It's time to end world pollution, with trash lying on the ground all around. We must save the earth from decay. Let's start today.
children for coming in and on behalf of the township. Wonderful performance and an excellent message for everyone.
Thank you.
Mr. Beanstalk?
Here.
Mr. Pace?
Here.
Mr. Watson?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Bowling?
Here.
Mayor Checkon?
Here. All right. Next item on the agenda is communication, scheduling matters, council agenda, presentations, and any amendments to the agenda. And I believe we're adding best practice checklist
Yes.
under communications.
Yes, Mayor. Under New Jersey law, the Township's chief financial officer is required to submit to the state of New Jersey the best practices worksheet. It's a series of questions, yes, no, and or not applicable. The chief financial officer will certify this list and submit it to the state, which was completed. We are required, or she's required, to provide notice and circulate it, and we're doing this tonight. It's required to be notified publicly, so that is what is happening at this point in time. The township scored a, let me get the score sheet here. 84 percentile, which basically the way the state has it set up, depending where you score, you lose a partial of your last payment of state aid for the end of the year. The 84 represents no loss in state aid. So although there are a couple items, obviously within the best practices to work towards, this is another year in which we still will receive all of our state aid. And this is required to be posted, I believe, or we've posted it in the past, so.
We can post it.
Yeah, we'll post it on the finance page of the website.
Right, so as I went through the list, I noted there were 8 questions we answered no, 2 were not applicable, which actually are treated as if we answered yes.
Correct.
To those in terms of the percentage score. And an 80, I guess, or I would say an 82 or above is considered 100%.
Correct.
So, as I noted the questions and we answered no to, it seemed to me there were basically 3 in there that were probably pretty much low-hanging fruit in terms of changing the answers. The one being on the surplus policy.
Correct.
To put together a policy on how to deal with surplus. I think that's fairly easy for us to do, and that's something we should concentrate on. So we can answer that question yes in the next year. The CSR question, obviously, we're going to look into that. And then I had a question, if we are going to be looking into that, could we answer that question prospective versus no?
I think because we're actually not, our number is not there at the 9.
Mm-hmm.
In talking to the OEM coordinator, we couldn't answer that as a yes.
Okay.
But it is something that is being looked at and we plan on having in place before next year.
And the last item would be the, with regard to the audited financials, the auditor comments. And I know we're still working on resolving the auditor's comment with regard to the general ledger, and hopefully we can make substantial progress through the next year so we can clear that comment. So that would put us, if we could answer those 3 yes in the next year, that would put us at 90%.
Exactly.
So we'd be well within the range, as it were. But at the very least, even if we can get 1 or 2 more answered yes, it would solidify our position, as it were, in that 100 percentile. So, any other comments? No?
The state compiles all the results of these annuals, and they post at the, I believe it's the DCA's website, is it not, Danny?
Yes.
They post on the DCA's website the results of these statewide, and there is a table of web links at the end of the worksheet that outlines all the who, what, when, where, and why, about how this list is put together and maintained. But and last year, we where we fell out statewide was certainly well above average. And I think we, as the mayor said, we're going to continue to move forward in that respect.
Right, I like getting high scores on things. So we're going to strive for getting the highest score we can. All right, anything else other than the fact we need to talk about the October 29th meeting?
Correct. At the last council meeting, we discussed the fact that council had been invited to the South Jersey Magazine event that evening, and we were going to look at what was on the radar as of tonight's agenda. You have 3 ordinances for introduction. All could be, the second hearings could all be at the November meeting. They're not health, safety, welfare in the sense that they need to be pushed through at the next meeting, so to speak. So if you wanted to delay that, and the bill list can be addressed at that time as well.
I don't have a problem with it. The only problem is you're on deck because I'm going to be in Dallas that night. So
On the 29th?
no, the 12th.
I'm fine with that.
It's been addressed, yeah. I'm sorry.
I'll be away. I'll be away on business in Dallas that night. I already know that.
So council was going to decide whether to even hold it or hold it later at that point in time.
Well, again, I mean, I don't see anything here that's controversial. And I don't have a problem. Okay, all right, so what about the 29th? What are we doing?
Again, it's council's decision if you want to have it, and if you're going to have it, are you going to have it later, or are you going to attend this South Jersey Magazine event representing a township meeting?
Well, we're going to be at that event. So from my perspective, it's an extra meeting this month.
Well,
I know, I understand that it's replacing the meeting that's on election night, but I'm okay with pushing it.
I'm in as well. I don't see any reason if, again, there's nothing health, safety, or welfare the bill list is going to address, so I'm fine with eliminating.
There's nothing pressing, and if something becomes pressing in the next 2 weeks, we can always hold a special meeting if need be. So.
All right. We'll make notification.
So yeah, we'll cancel that meeting. All right, anything else? Mr. Manager?
No, sir.
Okay. All right, next item is approval of minutes from the August 6, 2013 executive, August 20th, 2013 executive, September 17th, 2013 executive, October 1st, 2013 regular, and the October 1st, 2013 executive. So everyone had an opportunity to review the minutes from those meetings, and if so, do you have any additions, corrections?
Everything looked good to me.
All right, if not, do I have a motion with regard to the minutes from those meetings?
So moved.
All right, Randy, then Joe. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, next item is the manager's report.
Thank you, Ed. The first item is a notification of professional development maintenance policy that has been put into effect. Basically, this administrative operating guideline is to provide for maintenance and professional development of state certifications, any professional license, CEUs that are required. It's not everyday type things that staff may go to, but the reason this was implemented, we've had staff who have, the taxpayers, and through the budget process, have paid for certain certifications, and then they leave within months, a year, within getting the certification. So we've invested in them, and then they leave. And so in doing some research and talking to my colleagues throughout the state, talking to Labor Council, we put in a professional development maintenance policy which provides a requesting process, and that if the township does in fact pay for this, and the employee decides to leave within 24 months, and 24 months was designated because typically the certification programs take up to that point in time 2 years to get a certification, such as a collector, assessor, public works certification, or becomes employed within a certain period of time by another government entity, the township is going to seek reimbursement of that. I'm considering asking council to codify that by ordinance. There are 2 towns that do have it by ordinance, but the rest of the towns have it by policy. So again, right now this is just a notification that we put a policy into effect going forward, and if I decide to bring it back to council for codification, we'll do it through a discussion item. That's all I have on that one. Any questions? Next item is an approval of a roadway permit for Medford Sunrise Rotary. You originally approved this for October 12th. However, due to the weather we had last weekend, the Rotary canceled it and asked to move it to November 2nd. And so we're recommending the same to council to approve the roadway permit, subject to county approval and everything else. So that's that one.
Okay. Please vote for approval of the roadway permit for Medford Sunrise Rotary for November 2nd. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Thank you. The next one is for the free and accepted Masons Lodge number 178 for a raffle permit. The date of the giveaway is December 9th from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. at their 25 Bank Street, Medford location. The tickets are for prizes. Everything came back clear, and it is recommended for approval.
Okay, do I have a voice vote for approval of a raffle permit for the free and accepted Masons Lodge 178? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Thank you. The next 3 are volunteers for the Department of Public Safety. The first one is Justin Evan DeLeo, new member of Taunton Fire. The next one is Margaret Ford, new EMS member, Station 258. And the third is approval for Keenan Gelfon, new fire member, Station 252 Taunton.
Are any of those individuals present? Okay. All right, do I have a voice vote for approval of Justin M. DeLeo as a new fire member, Station 252, Margaret Ford, new EMS member, Station 258, and Keenan Gelfon, the new fire member, Station 252. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
That's all I have here.
Okay. All right, then, moving right along. Discussion items. We have the sign ordinance amendments.
Thank you, Mayor. At the October 1st meeting, council was advised there have been some questions and concerns raised with the implementation of the new sign ordinance. Township planner, Taylor Design Group has reviewed some of them and has proposed some amendments. That was distributed and circulated to council. Mr. Taylor is here tonight to start the process of that discussion with council, and if council decides to make any changes, then we'll go move forward depending on that discussion.
As council may recall, we made some sweeping changes to the sign ordinance earlier this year. One of the items of discussion after extensive meetings by the sign subcommittee was that relative to the changeable copy signs. In their initial draft of the ordinance that was adopted, those signs were limited to Route 70 only, and also for churches and schools in the remaining zones in town. As Mr. Schultz indicated, there have been some concerns regarding the brightness and visual obtrusiveness of those signs. So we've taken a first draft, had some potential changes to address reduction in those signs and their imposition, particularly at night. Some of these are industry standards. We've done research from some major manufacturers of the signs to make sure that this is all technology. One of them includes dimming to 0.3-foot candles above ambient light. So as it gets darker or as it turns to night, much like a GPS or much like the dashboard of your car, it automatically gets a little bit dimmer. That will actually result in less distraction of drivers, a safer condition, and a more attractive visual environment. So we've gone through and made a number of those changes. There were also a couple of very minor housekeeping items that the zoning officer, Kathy Borstadt, had
requested that we consider. It was actually just moving an item under the exempted signs, and that's on page 1 of some of the changes. So we can discuss them if the governing body would like to go through the items tonight, or if there are any additional changes that you would like to discuss or consider. We can either do that in this forum or perhaps a smaller subcommittee forum.
Well, I wanted to raise an issue completely different than that issue with regard to the digital signs, and it's in the enforcement. Having dealt with the political sign issue the last couple of weeks, I mean, when I pulled my car out of my driveway on, I think, September 30th, and I saw political signs popping up, and I said, gee whiz, I said, I thought we had a 30-day rule on Medford, and sure enough, we do. 30 days before the election, which we put it at October 6th, which was the Sunday. And except, of course, for the Senate race, the special Senate race, which was within the 30-day window. But I saw county signs and I saw state signs. And I called the manager, and then I proceeded to call both the Democratic county chairman and the Republican county chairman and asked them to remove their signs because they were in violation of the ordinance, which they both readily agreed to do. But unfortunately, as I learned thereafter, they didn't do. The manager actually took down a lot of those signs. He ran around in his car and took down those signs, and I believe we still have them, don't we? Or did they come pick them up?
I don't know if they picked them up.
Okay, all right, just, so the enforcement provisions here are I mean, if you're talking about a 30-day window for having signs up, they're meaningless. I mean, we don't have any teeth in them because they require written notice to the individual putting up the sign, and then they have 30 days to respond to that notice. And by then, the 30-day window for those signs is up. So I think with regard to at least temporary signs like that, you know, presuming that the solicitor doesn't slap me here for some reason, we need to make that window shorter with regard to enforcement. I don't have a problem with the 30-day for more permanent signs, but with regard to the temporary signs like that, I think that we need to have a shorter window.
See, when we deliberated this as part of our committee, that was intentional in terms of having a 30-day window, because we wanted to create a reasonable time frame for temporary signage.
No, what I'm saying is they were in violation.
Right.
By the time I send out the notice and they have 30 days, they're already within the window.
So the reason we made it a 30-day window, Mr. Taylor, this was part of your recommendation, as I recall. We wanted to create an environment where temporary signage could be put in place, but we wanted to have some notification to the township. So, and it was less for political signs than for event signage, grand openings, those sorts of things. We wanted to be able to have an ordinance where people could have a temporary sign, but have the ability to enforce. So we required a 7-day notification period, as I recall, right?
And just for clarification, I think the notification the mayor's talking about is when the election sign provision in the ordinance.
They've got 30 days to comply.
They have 30 days before the election that the signs may go up.
Right. And
the signs must be taken down 7 days after the election.
But there's a 30-day compliance period.
There's a 30-day compliance, and I think the mayor's comment is if on day 8 after the election those signs are not removed, the way the ordinance enforcement section is written now, you can't give notice until day 38.
Well, if they were given notice, and that's where I was going with this, if they were given notice prior because they were in violation, technically, I suppose they could be fined before the election were even over, because they haven't yet taken down the signs that were erected prior to the appropriate time frame. So, from my perspective, from an enforcement, I would think that we would be able to begin to fine them even before the election period, within 30 days of them not taking them down outside of that window.
Well,
That's not what this says.
I mean, that's a conversation we can have, if you want to take another look at that. We have to have some sort of a reasonable time frame for them to react, if you want to make it a week or whatever.
I think for a political sign or some other type of temporary sign, I don't see why they need more than 24, 48 hours.
Well, we certainly would have to, political has a
I think
special.
the mayor's point is you have to give them all this notice, and we're putting up the signs up too early. By the time you give them the notice, now it's within, now it's a legal sign, so it essentially makes the 30-day rule moot.
But I think perhaps what we can do, as the mayor suggested, is all of the enforcement and violation provisions are really focused at a permanent type sign. So maybe we can work with Mr. Norman to see if there is an abbreviated period in which all temporary signs, I don't think we could specifically separate out election signs from a temporary sales sign that a business might put up.
No, if anything, the
You can't treat commercial signs more favorably than the political signs.
So could we notify them, if we're concerned about the 7 days after, could we notify them 23 days before the election? Reminding them and have that act as notice, or how does that work?
One of the things, and I've seen this in my travels in other communities, we have, through the election clerk's office, provided courtesy letters to both parties in advance of the election, just reminding them, here's the town's ordinance. We do get a lot of complaints from residents about the signs, and it's not just political signs. We get them on the business signs and everything, and we're doing our level best with the staffing to get at them. But we suggested starting that process in the future, just a courtesy notice. Hey, just remember, this is our ordinance. And that's probably all we're going to be able to do from a staff perspective, as the mayor indicated. Once notice is provided and you come into compliance period, we're not going to keep going. We're not going to go down that path to drag somebody into court, for example, and they're now in compliance. So it's kind of, it needs to, however council wants to address that going forward. But that should be.
So if they put them out 7 days early, really they're just kind of getting over on our laws. And I guess if I were voting for someone, I certainly wouldn't want to vote for someone that's willing to consider themselves above the law. I mean, to me, it's up to the population then to actually make their decision based on that. If you see the signs out early, you know they don't respect the law.
Well, I think the point is, our violation of the ordinance, I don't know, they put it out 7 days or 3 days or.
Yeah, they're getting that wrong.
But the point is that, if we need to enforce it, we need to have some enforcement teeth for it. And that goes for the commercial signs as well, although, personally, from my perspective, commercial signs serve a purpose. Political signs, I don't know how much of a purpose they serve. That's my own personal opinion, but the commercial signs, I could see treating them a little more flexibly, but if we can't, we can't. Because that becomes more like, just, trash on the side of the roadway, a lot of those temporary signs, especially when they don't get taken down after an event or after some, business event has occurred, and they need to be enforced as well. So I think we should have some type of.
If I may, Mr. Manager, what is the enforcement action that the code official or township employee can take if a sign is in violation of the ordinance? Are they able to remove that sign?
If it's in the right of way, she does. In fact, Public Works is making a tool for her to get at the ones on the utility poles that are not only in violation of our ordinance, they're in violation of the utility regulations.
All right,
So there's different mechanisms. Obviously, she'll send a notice, she'll make a call, she'll put them on notice. We obviously try to have them do it and be compliant because it does take time and effort, obviously, to file and bring them into municipal court. So our ultimate goal as staff is compliance. But on occasion, we do, and we do have to bring people into court and take action that way. So depending on the situation, combination, she typically doesn't just go out and grab the sign. Every effort is made to call and request that the sign be taken down. Particularly, we have a lot of signs that are from out-of-town vendors that driving around. Some of them from North Jersey, they don't even know it. We had a resident come to one of the meetings complaining about all the proliferation of signs and dealing with it. So that's typically what happens.
Right, and again, the township does take a lot of complaints about these types of signs, temporary signs. And quite frankly, they can be an eyesore. And anybody believes that, you know, they're like daisies and colorful as kidding themselves. They are an eyesore. We can, you know, spend taxpayer dollars to continue to chase our tail on regulating and beating this dead horse to death. But I think, you know, in its simplest form, we have an ordinance that says this is, you know, how it works. If you're not going to file that ordinance and there's no law prohibiting us from collecting those signs in the right of way, you know, I think our focus should be doing that. I mean, we're policing ourselves. You know, again, that raises other problems, and again, we can argue all day long. We can write laws all day long. I don't think we're going to, you know, fix the problem so that it suits everybody. Temporary signs, as they're addressed now in current ordinances, are lacking somewhat. I'm happy to sit here for the next 3 hours and go word by word through this. Quite frankly, I'm a little concerned that this is before me again. We did a great deal of work on the sign ordinance previously. And it looks like we're going in reverse. We're adding more restrictions. I'm a firm believer in less government. I understand the lighting, and again, depending on where you go in the nation, you know, some places like lighted signs, some places don't. Unless it's having a negative impact directly on an individual or their rights, why are we reviewing this again? Again, we're adding more restrictions rather than removing restrictions. And quite frankly, like I said, I don't think it's going to do anybody any good to sit here for 3 hours and cover this.
No,
if we need to go back to the subcommittee,
Yeah, I think I'd rather approach
it.
it pre-assembled subcommittee.
I don't know that we need to sit here and go through it line by line, but the point of it is you took a 44-page ordinance and basically reduced it down to 17 pages to try to simplify it. And like any type of legislation that's fairly complex, and this is complex, it has to cover a wide range of items. It's not necessarily that you're going to get it right the first time.
Understand that.
Okay, and it's going to need modifications as you go along. And that's one of the things that popped out about it. I mean, I'll be honest with you, quite frankly, and I think everybody here is in the same, came to the same conclusion when we saw the sign pop up at St. Mary's on Jackson Road, that digital sign. I was more shocked than anyone. I drove by and said, whoa, look at that. That's really bright. You know, it's 9 o'clock at night and it's really bright. And it's, you know, it's flashing messages every couple of seconds. And meanwhile, you've got houses across the street. It's in a residential neighborhood. You know, the schools, we can't do anything about. They're allowed to have digital signs. They can basically thumb their nose at us and do whatever they want. And they put up their digital signs, and that's fine. But I mean, we turned down, when I was on the zoning board, we turned down applicants for that same digital sign. They couldn't have it in another church in town. They wanted one, they couldn't have it, we told them no. And now we've got St. Mary's that has it, and, you know, I mean, I'm a parishioner there, but I mean, I was just shocked to see it. And I don't necessarily have a problem with it, but I have a problem with the brightness of it, you know, flashing messages. You know, we may want to think about other restrictions in terms of, do they have to turn them off at night? I mean, especially if they're in a residential area. Do you have to turn it off at night, or do you have to bring it down really low? Because again, it's just a distraction. You know, you got enough distractions in the car nowadays. That's just one more.
Well, I don't disagree. But again, insofar as that sign during the day, I don't find anything objectionable about it at all. We can argue all day long that it's a distraction to drivers. Well, if drivers weren't driving 55 miles an hour down Jackson Road, they wouldn't have that problem. It wouldn't be a problem. But again, I'm more inclined to say, yeah, okay, look at restricting the amount of light that comes from that sign at night. And there are state regulations already in place for that. So why are we reinventing the wheel, making it part of an ordinance when the state already dictates it can only be so bright at night?
I think the short answer to this would be to hash out the details of this piece of legislation. Let's go back and approach it the way we did before. I thought we had a really good, well-balanced group, people. We relied on your professionalism, and we also, I thought, we had a nice mix of people who wanted no regulations and people who wanted lots of regulations, and we were able to come up with something I think that made a lot of sense. This part about these digital signs, where I think we agreed that we were going to try on Route 70 and see how that worked, and then see if we wanted to expand it. And with the community signs, it looks like they were the first ones to pop up. So I don't have a problem going back and taking a look at it, but I do think the best format for that would probably be a subcommittee, and then we can present it back to the governing body. Because you're right, Randy, it was it was a couple of pretty long meetings.
Sure, and it's a lot to go through.
Yeah, it is, and I don't know if this is the most productive format for that. So I'd say we can go back and I think we had a good subcommittee before. Chuck and I were on there. I would certainly be willing to dedicate some of my time to that again, and we can go back and ask the original members of that committee if they want to revisit it. Otherwise, try to find people that have sort of a different perspectives like that.
I don't know that we need to reconstitute a whole subcommittee for that.
I'm willing to do it.
I mean, if the two of you want to do it and you want to ask the original members if they're willing to participate, but I'm not going to go out and search for new members. I mean, you just
well, no, that's what I'm saying.
You just take whoever agrees, and then
just need a representative from different business sections and some residents and people who have a little bit more of a.
All right, that's fine.
Nice sense. I like a subcommittee that has a lot of interviews on it.
All right, so what do we need, a resolution to reconstitute that subcommittee?
Yeah, we'll reach out to the original members, see if they're all interested, and then we can prepare a resolution.
Just have it should be fine.
All right, that's fine, but one of the things I'd like added to that is investigating with Mr. Norman and Mr. Taylor, the enforcement provisions, which is our temporary signs.
Yeah, we can look at that. I mean, we talked about it before, but if it...
All right, well, that's fine. Anything else on that?
Thank you.
All right, if not, okay. All right, next item is public comments. Anyone in the public having questions or the township business, please step forward. State your name and address for the record, and you have 5 minutes.
How you doing? Troy Sheehan, Dr. Rob. I'm going to try not to take up all 5 minutes. Just bear with me, though, if you can. At the last township meeting, a resident brought up a lingering topic, a matter concerning a decorated war veteran and former township employee. This must be like a recurring nightmare for that man and his family, a topic which had many explanations and deep discussions, but no tangible resolution. Either way, it continues to be a point of contention for our town and its residents. There comes a time when we must stand up for what is right. We can't continue to dwell in the past and hope that the future will sort itself out. This country was founded on the beliefs, morals, determination of great men and women. They were willing to defend this nation with their lives because they believed that there was no sacrifice too great to protect that basic foundation for freedom. The same freedom that allows us to be here today and to live in a nation with the rights that we should cherish and never be taken for granted. We continue to live in the freedom because of the men and women in our military that are still willing to sacrifice their lives for all of us. Kevin Ellicott is one of those people who not only committed himself to his country as a Marine, but also to his town, Medford, as a volunteer and then career fireman. As a volunteer, he did not seek pay or reimbursement, but the satisfaction that he was helping others. This is the same unselfishness that he continually displayed every time he was deployed to protect the freedom of our nation and the countries that he fought for while representing the United States of America. This man was willing to forgo his life for others, people whom he didn't even know. But he knew that their freedom was worth the sacrifice. This is the same commitment and selflessness and sacrifice that he was willing to make for the people whom he may not have even known as a volunteer and then a career fireman from Medford Township. This is the integrity and quality you cannot teach or train a person to have, as it comes from the soul. He was raised in this community, went to school here, and still resides here with his family. He was willing to sacrifice his life for our nation and this town. I feel that we as a town and a community should do the right thing for him and his family. If we need to set a precedent, shouldn't it be a first-class and noble precedent? Shouldn't it be one worth remembering and not one wishing to be forgotten? Shouldn't we start to remember why we are the great nation that we are by doing the right thing for our people? There is nothing more dysfunctional than the federal government right now. They can't even agree on how to pay for death benefits to the families, for the soldiers that gave the ultimate sacrifice for our nation. This is the same sacrifice that provides our government, those same politicians, the freedom to have that disagreement. We all have our self-interests, our own wants and needs. We all want what we had when times were good in Medford. However, our selfishness can certainly be put aside if all the cuts, eliminations, and layoffs at least protected an employee and his family who was willing to make the ultimate sacrifice for our nation, which gave us that right to be selfish in the first place. Don't be part of our dysfunctional government. Do the right thing for our people, our town, our employees, past, present, and future. We continually read all the negative press from the past. Let's continue to be part of the positive press for the future and be a town that is a leader again by showing that we stand up for what is right. We can be divided on many things. However, this should not be one of those times. There are many examples of heroes. Many say that the police, fire, and EMS are the heroes. They are, at many times, heroes in the sense of the word. But anyone in the military who willingly puts his or her life on the line for the safeguard of our freedom are heroes in my book. Kevin Ellicott is one of those people. He's not asking for a parade or a street named after him. He's asking for what he worked for and earned, the security for his family. This is a wound that finally needs healing, and now is the time to do the right thing. The leaders of this town send letters and voice opposition towards many things that the government makes us do as a town. Why not come together again and let your voices be heard? This time to help someone. Isn't this a battle worth fighting for him? He certainly went to battle for us. If you remember what John F. Kennedy once said, let us not seek the Republican answer or the Democratic answer, but the right answer. Let us not seek to fix the blame for the past. Let us accept our responsibility, our own responsibility for the future.
Thank you, Mr. Schumer. Okay, anyone else? Certainly, step forward.
Mike Panarello, Jewish Trip. First, most people only do the right thing when the right thing is the easiest thing to do. That officer stuck his neck out for Kevin, and I hope we realize that. And if this was Jim Ewan, or if this was Mike Riley, I'd be up here again. When it's all said and done, this kid, Kevin, went to Shawnee High School. He gave his volunteer program, his whole volunteer career here, professional career here. He was hurt in the line of duty here. He served in the military, honorably. When it's all said and done, I hope everybody on this council, everyone who's involved, can say they did the best they could to help that man. If you can say that, you get my respect. Not that it matters. In the end, if you say, look, and the officer hit it right on the nose, this is not a party thing. It's the right thing. In the end, can you look in the mirror and say, I did the best I could for that man. I did everything within my power for that man. If you did, no problem. But if there's something you could do that you're holding back on, then we got a problem. My second problem is over 10 years I've seen 3 Republicans into Medford at Medford taxpayers' expense. Did we have to pay any money for Lonigan to come and speak here yesterday? Under Oprah, I have to know. I have a right to know.
Mr. Manager, did it cost us anything?
Did it cost us anything?
No.
Because all right, and I will, fine.
No.
There
was no communication to my office from any party, including Mr.
No
Lopez.
overtime or anything?
Nope.
Thank you, because I saw here, when we brought in Cheney years ago, and then we brought in McCain, how much money it cost this town to bring those people in. And so I commend you for not spending that money.
If it did, and it didn't.
You said it didn't, I
It
believe
did,
you.
But, and my practice would have been to ask that party pay up.
Yeah.
I have never done that, and I'm not gonna start it here.
I just asked a question. I wasn't accusing or condemning, I
No,
was
I know,
asking
I
a
just
question.
want you to know as a taxpayer that we would not do that.
And I commend you for that.
And
Because like I said,
and I would do the same thing. I don't care who it is.
good.
I don't care, you know, if a Republican or Democrat, President of the United States, you need to pay. I'm not going to provide you with, you know, security.
Yeah.
You need to pay.
But that was, you know, and again, this is a different group, I understand. But that wasn't the case when Cheney came in 04, and it definitely wasn't the case when McCain came in 08. So I asked the question, and I had a right to ask the question.
Well, different group of people.
You should have seen the federal bill for that.
My last one is, I know this election's coming up, and I know what it was like when I ran and how horrible it was. And I commend the people on both sides for running what I think a decent campaign. Now the last days are coming up, electioneering, which requires people not to pander or solicit within 100 feet of the polling place. In the past, there have been violations of that. Not even handshaking is allowed. So I urge both parties, not just the Republican Party, but my party as well, to adhere to the laws that govern this state. So, thank you. I'm going to say
Please,
what I
step
want,
forward.
and I don't care what you say. You have no right to come back to me like that.
Okay,
Yeah, right.
let's keep it down, please. Mr. Riley,
You can start.
Mike Riley, 5 Crockery Lane. First of all, I'd like to thank the officer for the comments that he made. They were excellent. And I hope that you listened very carefully. I'm a 100% disabled veteran. I belong to a PTSD support group. The Iraqi and Afghanistan veterans have an extremely high unemployment rate. They have a very high suicide rate, higher than the general public in both areas. We have a man who did something that very few people would do. He gave of himself for others. 5 times he was deployed, 5 times. He comes back, gets injured, and he gets thrown out like he's a broken piece of furniture. And that's all I can say, that's what that looks like. He's a broken piece of furniture, get rid of it, boom. We can do better than that. You can do better than that. You should do better than that. And for the people who said, as one person did, oh, that's not our problem. Yes, it is our problem. He's one of us. Okay, he was working for us. There's supposed to be a loyalty that goes up and goes down. He's supposed to have a loyalty to his community. You're supposed to have a loyalty to him. So far, that loyalty has not shown itself. Thank you.
thank you, Mr. Riley. Anyone else? Okay, if not, do I have, oh, please step forward.
Kevin Elcott, 15 Hiawatha Trail. I promised my wife that I wouldn't speak tonight. I feel compelled, at the very least, thank the people that spoke on my behalf. And I appreciate it. And I'm not asking anything from anybody, but I do have a point to make. When I came up here, the last meeting I was at, it got a little heated. And I apologize for that. But I asked a question that I never got a response from because I was interrupted and I was told it was a Faulkner Act issue. Over the past several months, I've done a lot of research on the Faulkner Act. And there's nowhere in the Faulkner Act that precludes somebody from giving an opinion. Specifically, they preclude any of the elected members coerce, order the manager to do something that he doesn't think is right. But there's nowhere in the Faulkner Act that precludes any one of the 5 members of council from stating their opinion. So again, I stand here before the elected officials and I humbly ask for your opinion on my matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Olcott. Anyone else? Okay, if not, do I have a motion to close the public portion?
So moved.
Second. Thank you. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Again, Mr. Olcott, I appreciate your situation, and in terms of offering an opinion, again, I'm going to defer to the manager on that. It's a personnel matter from our standpoint. That is under his purview, and my understanding is he's dealing with it. I mean,
You don't have to speak anymore.
Okay.
I've heard enough. What you're telling me is that you have an opinion in the matter, or you're too frightened to tell you.
I'm not frightened at all.
I stand before you and I'm asking.
Mr. Ellicott, public comments are closed. Okay. All I said was I'm not intimately familiar enough with the facts to form an opinion. Okay.
You haven't reached out to me.
The manager is.
Thank you. Have a good night.
All right, you too.
Mr. Ellicott, I'd be happy to offer my opinion. I've spoken to you on many occasions.
And I appreciate that.
I've also spoken with the manager. I'm an elected official. I'm charged with representing all the residents of Medford Township. I don't have every last detail of your specific situation. I have sat down with the manager and reviewed the information available. I will offer you this. Every resident of this country has the right to redress. The best part about living in the United States of America, a country that I defended for 24 years on active duty. I'm very pleased that you made that sacrifice to defend your country at the risk of your safety, your family's enjoyment having you at home. I experienced the same thing you did.
I know you have.
One of the greatest things about defending the type of freedom that we have is every one of us has a right to redress. And it doesn't matter what this governing body says, doesn't matter what this governing body thinks. There are laws. We have always been a nation of law. You have a right to redress. I not only encourage you, I implore you to seek that right of redress. I don't have an answer for you. That's not my job. Do I believe that you are entitled to the right of redress? Absolutely. Are you entitled to something beyond that? That's not a decision for this governing body.
I'm not asking for a decision
Again, you asked for my opinion, Mr. Ellicott, and I'm offering it to you. Okay, that's all I'm doing. The public comment, as the mayor said, is open. You have a right to redress, and anything I can do to help you in that redress, I'm willing to do as an individual, not as an elected official, because that's not my job. That's in my capacity as an elected official, that's not my job. But as a fellow veteran, as a neighbor, that is my job. Okay, so again, whatever I can do to help you in that redress, I'm more than willing to do.
Well, I am going to leave.
Mr. Ellicott, the public comment portion is over. I'm happy to discuss this.
I just wanted to thank you for the intestinal fortitude to say something. I appreciate that. Okay.
Thank you. All right, let's move along to the bill list. From October 9, 2013. Anybody have any questions on the bill list? And if so, did you get those questions answered? Okay, with the bill list? Yep. If so, do I have a motion to approve the October 9, 2013 bill list?
So moved.
Thank you, President. Second. Thank you, Jeff. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item is ordinances for second reading, which we have none. Following that are ordinances for first reading. And we have 3 ordinances for first reading. Do I have a motion with regard to, on first reading, ordinance 2013-3?
I move that ordinance 2013-13, an ordinance granting renewed consent and permission to South Jersey Gas Company to use the public streets to furnish gas for light, heat, and power in the Township of Medford be passed on first reading.
Thank you, Mayor.
Second.
Second. Thank you, Chuck. We'll set the date for public hearing November 12th.
Yes, sir.
All right, any comments on the ordinance? If not, do I have a roll call vote for approval of ordinance 2013-13?
Mr. Beanstalk?
Aye.
Mr. Pace?
Aye.
Mr. Watson?
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Balloney?
Aye.
Mayor Checa?
Aye. All right, next item is ordinance 2013-14. Do I have a motion for ordinance 2013-14?
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 2013-14, an ordinance of the Township Council of Medford Township amending and supplementing Article 7 of the Medford Township Code with Section 5-65, unauthorized billing and billing processing practices, vendor fiduciary duty violations and penalties on first reading.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
And Mayor, before you vote, in the first whereas clause, there's a typo. The word task is tax.
It should be task force.
But it's spelled task force the rest of the way. So
And also the parentheses.
All right, we'll set the date for public hearing again, November 12th, 2013. Any comments?
I just want to offer one. Thank you to all the members of the task force, Councilman Bowman, the solicitor, the manager and staff put a lot of time and effort into this as well. Nothing that we do seems to be simple. And the sign ordinance is a perfect example of that. But at the end of the day, when we can enact legislation such as this, that tightens it down and gives us locally the ability to control our own destiny, to control what goes on in our township, and to mine the store locally, I think we all benefit. It goes without saying that we came through a tough time, and this ordinance is a result of what we've been through. There's still a lot left to do in regards to prior practices. I think this goes a long way in preventing it from happening again. And we'll certainly pursue those issues going forward. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? If not, do I have a roll call vote for approval of ordinance 2013-14 on first reading?
Mr. Beanstalk?
Aye.
Mr. Pace?
Aye.
Mr. Watson?
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Balloney?
Aye.
Mayor Checa?
Aye. All right, and the last item is ordinance 2013-15. Do I have a motion for approval of ordinance 2013-15 on first reading?
I move that ordinance 2013-15 be passed on first reading, an ordinance of the Township Council of Medford Township amending and supplementing the following chapters of Article 7 of the Medford Township Code: 5-52, Capital Program and Budget Amendment; 5-53, Contracts; 5-56, Purchasing; 5-57, Emergency Purchases; 5-58, Purchases by Quotation; 5-61, Vouchers and Certifications; and 5-69, Division of Treasurer and Purchasing.
All right, thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Chris. We'll set the date for public hearing again, November 12, 2013. Any comments on ordinance 2013-15?
It's got the same typo.
Same typo? Okay.
We've already made the correction.
Should be tax versus tax. Okay.
Not material and
Not material in English.
All right. Any other comments? If not, do I have a roll call vote for approval of ordinance 2013-15 on first reading?
Mr. Beanstalk?
Aye.
Mr. Pace?
Aye.
Mr. Watson?
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Bonney?
Aye.
Mayor Checklight?
Aye. All right, next item on the agenda is the consent agenda resolutions. And tonight we have Resolution 175-2013, authorizing the cancellation of certain grant fund receivable balances and reserve balances. Resolution 176-2013, authorizing the refund of 2013 tax overpayment, Block 806.02, Lot 11, 5 Milton Drive, Block 3202.01, Lot 1.19, 9 Ashley Court. Resolution 177-2013, authorizing electronic tax sale. Resolution 178-2013, authorizing the closing of roads in Medford for community events. Resolution 179-2013, authorizing cancellation of certificate number 13-00083, Block 4203, Lot 8, 4 Elm Avenue. Resolution 180-2013, approving a request for final release of performance guarantee for Constellation Solar Federal LLC, Constellation Energy, SPR 5660F. Resolution 181-2013, approving a request for guarantee reduction number 1 via letter of credit, Meyer Heritage LLC for Heritage at Medford, PBC 1344F1A1. Resolution 182-2013, authorizing execution of an interlocal service agreement between the Township of Medford and Lenape High School District for the service of providing a school resource officers at Lenape High School and Shawnee High School. Resolution 183-2013, amending the Township of Medford 2013 year municipal budget by the insertion of a special item of revenue and appropriation from the Lenape Regional High School District for an interlocal services agreement for police services. And Resolution 184-2013, a resolution approving participation with the State of New Jersey Division of Alcohol Beverage Control Program. Did you have something you wanted to say?
No, that was just, that was too more.
No, okay. All right. Do I have a motion for approval of the consent agenda resolutions as so stated?
So moved.
All right, thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Randy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, and last item here is Resolution ES 1015-2013. Executive session, matters relating to litigation, negotiations, and the attorney-client privilege relating to the New Jersey Supreme Court decision on color regulations, matters relating to litigation, negotiations, and the attorney-client privilege relating to the New Jersey Supreme Court decision, the Aristone property, matters relating to the purchase, lease, or acquisition of real property or the investment of public funds, the Shendock property, block 6801, lot 5.01, matters relating to litigation, negotiation, and attorney-client privilege relating to the Latagonia matter, and matters relating to litigation, negotiations, and the attorney-client privilege relating to the Ushman matter. Do I have a motion to approve Resolution ES 1015-2013?
So moved. Second.
Thank you, Chuck. Thank you, Chris. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, we should be
15, 20 minutes, I don't anticipate any.
20 minutes to a half hour. Action may or may not be taken.